He did not make you beg. That would have been easier to see. He made you audition quietly. You learned when to speak, when to stay calm, when to act like less had hurt you, when to make the message lighter so he would not pull away. At first, you may not have called it performing. You called it patience. You called it understanding. You called it giving him space. But something in you knew. You were trying to become the version of yourself he would stop hesitating over. Not because you had no pride. Not because you wanted to chase a man who kept leaving you unsure. But because his hesitation touched a place in you that wanted an answer. What is missing in me? That is the question he left inside you without ever saying it out loud. He didn't have to tell you that you were not enough. He only had to keep coming close without fully choosing you. Close enough to make you feel wanted. Distant enough to make you question yourself. And your mind tried to solve it. It watched his mood. It replayed his warm moments. It measured your words before you sent them. You deleted the honest sentence. You kept the easy one. That is what made it so painful. You were not only waiting for love, you were studying him while slowly forgetting how to be yourself. And every time you studied him, you lost a little more access to yourself. You became calmer than you felt, because maybe calm would make him stay. You swallowed the question, because maybe asking would push him away. You acted like the distance did not hurt, because maybe needing less would make you easier to choose. And every small sign from him felt bigger than it should have. A kind message felt like progress. A little affection felt like proof. A warm moment felt like maybe all of this was finally working. But it was not working. It was training you to accept relief as love. Underneath that hope, something in you was getting tired, because love was no longer feeling like a place to rest. It was starting to feel like a place where you had to keep proving you belonged. He was getting the easiest version of you while you were getting the most anxious version of yourself. That was the cost you began to see. You were not becoming more loved. You were becoming easier to keep uncertain. You were not holding on because he gave you so much. You were holding on because every now and then he gave you a version of him that made leaving feel premature. A good night, a softer voice, a message that sounded warmer than the silence before it. A moment where he reached for you and made you think, maybe this is the real him. And your mind took those moments seriously. Not because you were naive. Because when someone keeps you uncertain, even a small return can feel like proof. That is what made this so hard to name. It did not feel like you were begging for love. It felt like you were close to finally being met. So you stayed near the version of him that seemed warm. You replayed the conversations where he sounded clear. You protected the moments where he seemed open, protective, almost ready. And when he pulled back again, your mind did not want to lose those moments. It tried to make them mean something stable. Maybe the distance was temporary. Maybe the hesitation was fear. Maybe he cared more than he could show. Maybe, if you stayed calm enough, he would stop wavering on his own. That hope made emotional sense at the time. Because his uncertainty did not only hurt you, it gave your mind a problem to solve. How do I become the woman he finally feels sure about? So instead of asking whether he was truly available, you started asking who you needed to become around him. That is the part that exhausted you. You were trying to love him, yes. But you were also trying to reach a finish line where your effort would finally turn into certainty. You thought that if he chose you clearly, the ache underneath all of this would quiet down. The ache of feeling almost enough. almost secure, almost held. So the little good moments kept resetting your hope. They interrupted the truth before you could fully accept it. And when a woman starts living off almost, she can mistake relief for safety. She can call it patience when really she is standing in a quiet audition, waiting for one more sign that she has finally done enough. This is where it stopped being love and started becoming performance. Not all at once, quietly. You checked your phone before you let yourself relax. You rewrote messages so they would sound lighter. You removed the part that asked for reassurance. You made your needs smaller before he even had the chance to ignore them. And after a while, that started to feel normal. You became easier to be around, but not because you felt safe. Because you were afraid that one wrong tone, one honest question, one moment of visible hurt would make him pull away again. So you learned to stay pleasant while something in you was tightening. That was the cost. You were not becoming more loved. You were becoming more manageable. You acted calm while your mind was working the whole time, reading his pauses, measuring his mood, deciding whether this was a good day to ask for more or another day to stay grateful for whatever little piece of him appeared. And every time he gave you just enough, you felt relief instead of peace. That relief can fool a woman. It can make crumbs feel meaningful when you've been starving for certainty. So you got quieter, kinder, less direct, less visible. You stopped saying, "This hurts me." You started saying, "It's okay, I understand." Not because it was okay, because losing access to him felt worse than losing access to your own voice. That is how the audition deepened. You did not just wait to be chosen. You started shaping yourself into someone easier to choose. And the cruel part is, the more you adjusted, the less you could even recognize your own exhaustion, because your mind kept telling you that this effort was temporary, that once he felt safe enough, once he saw your loyalty clearly enough, once you finally got it right, he would meet you fully. But the cost was already happening. You were carrying the whole emotional weight of something that kept asking you to disappear inside it. The shift did not happen when you stopped caring. It happened when you saw that caring had turned into self-erasure. You finally noticed that you were doing too much emotional work for something that kept making you feel uncertain. Too much adjusting, too much translating, too much waiting for him to become clear while you kept becoming smaller. And the hardest part was admitting that this was no longer about patience. It was about how far you had started crossing yourself just to stay close to him. That realization was quiet. No big speech, no dramatic ending. Just a moment where something in you got tired of performing. Tired of trying to be the right version of a woman so his hesitation would stop. Tired of treating your needs like a threat to the connection. Tired of acting unbothered while your chest stayed tight and your mind stayed busy. You saw that love was not asking you to become less. This was. And that changed something. Because once you really see that you have been auditioning, it becomes harder to keep calling it connection. You start to understand that his confusion may be real. His inconsistency may come from his own limits. His fear may even be understandable. But none of that changes what it has been doing to you. You do not need to make him cruel to stop making room for what keeps hurting you. That is the limit. You stop leaning forward. You stop proving. You stop trying to look easier to keep. You stop swallowing the question just to protect the moment. You stop turning his half-choice into a full-time job for your heart. And the deepest part of this is simple. You finally see that being chosen by someone uncertain was never going to heal the ache he activated in you. It was only going to keep you working harder for a piece that should not have required performance in the first place. So this is where you stop auditioning, not because the hope was fake, because the cost became too real to keep denying. When you stop auditioning, you do not lose love. You lose the exhausting habit of trying to earn what should have met you freely. And at first, that can feel strange, because your body got used to reaching, adjusting, watching for signs, making yourself easier to hold so you would not be dropped again. When that stops, there is a silence. But it is not the old silence that made you question yourself. It is a cleaner one. A silence where you do not have to rehearse. A silence where your phone is just your phone. A silence where you can tell the truth in your own chest without immediately trying to soften it for someone else. That is what starts coming back. Your breath comes back first. Then your voice. Then the part of you that no longer wants to be impressive, low maintenance, endlessly understanding, or easy to postpone. You begin to feel how tired you were. Not because you loved too much, but because you kept pouring love into a place where you also had to reduce yourself just to stay. And once you really see that, something steadier begins to return. Your warmth stays, but it no longer begs. Your softness stays, but it no longer negotiates against itself. Your heart stays open, but it stops calling uncertainty romance just because hope once lived there. This is the dignity of it. You do not become cold. You do not become hard. You simply stop offering your full heart to situations that require you to disappear in order to be kept. And the woman who comes back to you here is not louder, not sharper, not crueler. She is calmer. She knows now that love was never supposed to feel like a constant test she had to pass. She knows she does not have to become lighter, smaller, or less real to be chosen. She knows that being met should feel like rest, not performance. So what leaves is the audition. And what remains is you. Still loving, still deep, still warm. Just no longer standing on a stage, asking someone uncertain to say yes.